All right, you've seen the thumbnail and the title, and it is true. Drone Delivery Canada has now crashed their second Condor drone, and they have stopped the development of the Condor program. They announced this today when they unveiled their Q3 financials and put out a press release, and they basically put that information at the bottom of the press release. That's right. What's going on, you guys? My name is Zach Hartley, and in this video, we are going to break down and review that news as well as the Q3 financials. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I've made several videos about this company. So if you are new to the company, go check out some of those videos. I basically break down everything you need to know, including interviews with the two different CEOs that we have had over the last few years. Because in this video, it's going to be more of an update. I'm going to be talking about the Q3 financials and the press release that they put out today. All of the information that I am about to show you is publicly available, and all I am doing is sharing my opinion of that information. This is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence, and you can find all this information if you go search for it on cdar.com. Now, let's start with the balance sheet. There's a couple of things that I really want to point out here that are super important, and then we're going to go through the financials, and then we'll talk about the Condor because it's all sort of connected. Number one, assets. Their cash balance has decreased by $1.7 million in the last quarter, so you can use that number to sort of figure out how much runway they have. They have $9 million of cash and cash equivalents, and they're going through $1.7 million in the last quarter. You could say that they have a year to a year and a half at that rate of runway left. Overall, they have fairly low liabilities. They don't owe anybody a whole lot of money right here, which is kind of nice. But one line that was super interesting to me was deferred revenue. I've talked about this several times in the past. Deferred revenue is basically your order book of people that have left deposits. And as of right now, it dropped from 100,000 to zero. There is no number here. It is not even being reported on. And that is very worrisome, because if you are investing into a company for a pipeline of future growth and they don't have any deferred revenue, that is a bit of a concern, especially considering it was in the hundreds of thousands just a little while ago. So those are the things that I'm watching on the balance sheet. Not very good here on a couple of different points, or at least some red flags that I'm looking for. The income statement here, this got super interesting. So overall, revenue was down year over year. They did $247,000 last year in this quarter. This year they only did $216,000. So revenue was down, but what was nice to see, it wasn't all bad, is that the new management team, Steve Magirius particularly, has reduced expenses in almost every single category. So if you compare this year to last year and you look at every single number on here, at a quick glance, I didn't see any numbers that had gone up. And so he had reduced the expenses of the business in quite literally every single category, except for one. You will see one category on here that had no number last year, and now it has $121,000, and that is the impairment of equipment. And obviously, you're kind of piecing this together now. You can probably figure out what that is. We're going to talk about that here in just 1 second. That is the Condor, if you didn't piece that together. But revenue is down. Expenses have been reduced, which is what I'm trying to say here. They had a $2 million operating loss, and if you look at their cash flow statement, I think it was like a $1.7 million in actual cash. They had the $121,000 in equipment impairment, and $1.5 million net used in operating. So that's the actual amount of cash that they went through in their operations, and they had that impairment here. Now, the reason that the operating loss and the net cash used in operating is different is because some of the transactions here don't actually affect the cash balance. So for instance, if they issue share-based compensation, they're issuing shares of the company, and there is a dollar value associated with that, but it is not decreasing their actual cash balance. And so that's why those two numbers are different here. Now, when it comes to quarterly results here, they do this nice summary for us, and it's actually really nice to see, because you can see the revenue over the last, 8 quarters here, basically 2 years, and you can also see their total assets. And as of the last 2 years, all it has done is decrease here. And so you can kind of look at how much it is decreasing by and see how much runway they have left. Now, when it comes to the Condor, I got this 3D printed. I thought it was so cool, and for the last few years, it has felt like and it has seemed like this was going to be the future of the company. But that has come to an end, because today, in their press release and in their management discussion and analysis, they wrote this: on September 29th, while servicing the ISC contract, which is government contract, the company experienced an incident with the second Condor airframe. They already crashed the first airframe, so that's important to note here. The second airframe that resulted in a hard landing. Nobody has any idea how hard that landing was. Might have been a little bump and a bounce, or it might have been a absolute pancake. That's a nice way to describe it. I know that SpaceX is kind of funny. They call their rocket explosions a rapid unplanned disassembly, and so that's how they describe their explosions. Who knows what happened in this scenario, but they are describing it as a hard landing, resulting in some damage to the second Condor airframe. The subsequent investigation of the incident and review of the airframe identified certain issues with third-party OEM components impacting the quality and reliability of the RPA. This is remotely piloted aircraft. So RPA is the Condor. That's what they're talking about here. And they're basically blaming it on third-party OEM components, which basically means they're blaming it on the people that they bought the airframe from. I forget the name of it right now. It's like X Composites or something, but they don't build the Condor airframe and the motor system. They actually buy that from a third party, and they're blaming the third party in this scenario here. These findings, coupled with the lack of regulatory progress for RPAs greater than 25 kilograms, so drones that are bigger than 25 kilograms, has led to the decision to suspend the development of the Condor RPA. So that basically means that the entire Condor program is suspended right now, and they are no longer going through development. Though development has been suspended, DDC intends for its technology roadmap to continue to include intellectual property that supports various RPA classes. And so this is really, really bad and disappointing, because basically what's happening here is they are blaming the third party for the components and their ability to produce quality components. And then they're also saying that the regulatory environment, coupled with that, makes it no longer viable. And in reality, if the company just did the proper due diligence and analysis, if those things were true, if the company did the proper due diligence and analysis, they should have been able to identify quality issues early on, and they should have been able to do the market analysis to say, hey, maybe this isn't the right place for us to enter right now. Instead, they have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, developing the Condor, all just to bring it to a suspension with 2 crashes and probably some not very happy government customers, which in reality probably could have been the biggest customers of all. And so altogether, I look at this, from the limited information we have, I look at this as an absolute disaster, and it raises a lot of questions. I have so many questions to ask here, but they give us limited information. They gave us like a couple of paragraphs about this, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs, but this was the main one here, and it basically says we crashed and it's somebody else's fault, and the regulations also combined with that make us leave the market. And I think that's a tough explanation to believe for real investors. And so in this press release and in the management discussion and analysis and in the financials, there was a lot of missing information that we used to get that we don't get anymore. So the number of flights and the distance flown, both of those numbers were reported on the last couple of quarterly updates, and those are no longer reported. We also used to get a budget versus an actual for the money that the company was spending. We no longer get that. And we also don't have a lot of updates on a lot of the contracts that have been announced like 1, 2, and 3 years ago. It sounds like a lot of them have kind of come to an end, and there has not been reorders or updates or extensions to those contracts. And as an investor, I'd really like to know why. I'd like to know, did we not provide enough value? Was it too expensive? Was it not working? Did we have safety issues? Like, we have had so many announcements, and it feels like there's not a ton of operations happening right now, and not a ton of updates on any of those announcements that were 1, 2, even 3 years ago. And so I've got a lot of questions about that. I've also like to know, what was the root cause of the first Condor crash? It says that they identified the root cause, but as far as I'm aware, I can't figure out what it is. I've read most of the stuff and I can't find it. So if it's out there, please let me know. Leave a comment in this video. I'd really appreciate it. And if you get any value out of this video, please make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to get this out as quickly as I can so that you get up-to-date information. Also, what happens to the ISC contract now that the Condor is being suspended? So the ISC contract is the government contract. They're testing out the Condor. Could have been a really great opportunity, but now the Condor development is suspended. So what happens to that contract? Do we owe them money back? What happens there? Like, how do you work that out now that you're just suspending the Condor development? When it comes to the stock chart, I am filming this like 1 or 2 hours, maybe maximum, after the announcement came out. And so this is what the stock chart looks like right now. There was no after hours. It's currently trading at 25 cents. And I would be surprised if it's trading at 25 cents in the morning when probably most people are going to be watching this video. Now, my final thoughts. Number one, I am disappointed that the development of the Condor has stopped. This was a pretty damn cool looking drone. It had a huge payload and a huge distance, and I thought that this was going to be the growth of the company in the future. Now that the development of this drone has stopped, my questions are, what is the strategic advantage of the company? Because it feels like there's other companies that have small and medium-sized drones that kind of compete in the space that they're in now. And number two, where does the growth come from? Because it feels like we've had a couple of contracts with these small and medium-sized drones, but it doesn't feel like we're seeing a lot of growth over at least the last kind of 1 to 2 years. And so those are my questions and those are my thoughts here with regards to what happens now for the Condor. Next one here is that revenue is still below expectations. I remember looking at a forecast when they announced that they raised money from, I want to say it was like Canaccord Equity or something like that, and the revenue expectations for this company went straight up and to the right. Like it was a hockey stick that was about to explode, and that has not been the case over the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm really interested in how they plan to put growth into those revenue numbers. I also think it's good that the expenses have been significantly reduced, but they have so much overhead and so many contracts and such high salaries that you can only cut so much. You cannot cut your way to profitability if you're only bringing in 200 grand a quarter in revenue. Like, it's just not going to work. And so I'm a little worried about the stock price in this announcement and this press release that just went out. I see almost nothing that I liked. Like, I can't really tell you a whole lot of good things other than the fact that they cut down on expenses, but they're still burning $1.5 million. And so $1.5 million to bring in 200 grand. And so that in my head is still a concern. And like I said, if the Condor is out, what is your strategic advantage against, I assume, the 5 to 10 other companies that have similar sized drones and similar sized programs? So those are the thoughts that go through my head. I hope this video was helpful. These are all my opinions. This is not financial advice. All of this information is publicly available. If I'm wrong about anything, leave a comment down below. I will do my best to correct it. Thank you guys for watching to the end of this video. And if you're interested in taking a stock market course to learn how to analyze companies like this, I have a course on Skillshare. It's called Stock Market Fundamentals. It just crossed over 20,000 students. It has over 400 reviews. It has over 10 hours of content, so you can do it in a weekend. It's not going to take you forever. And it's 100% free if you sign up with the link in the description to this video. You get the first month free on the platform to take any course you want, and then you have to pay the subscription fee. Depending on where you live, that price is a little bit different, but you get the full 1 month free, and you can cancel before that 1 month. Take the entire course. It's yours for free. Promise it'll be worth it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.